Oh, we're hot. We're on hot mics. Hi,
We
everybody.
are live.
May I take this moment to invite everybody at the back of the room to come to the front of the room because we are trying to cultivate a fireside chat kind of vibe up here. The fire, as you see, is behind us. So if you're comfortable, please feel free to join us at the front of the room. I'm Kara Szymborski. I'm on the marketing team here at Elsevier, and I focus on Interfolio. That's right, Melissa, come on up, I see you. And I am here with Maureen, who will now introduce herself to you.
Okay. So I'm Maureen Carvan, and I am the Vice President for Academic and Faculty Affairs at Rosalind Franklin University for Medicine and Science, which we shorten to RFU as frequently as possible. And I have come to know Kara through the fact that we have adopted the entire faculty information system, and today we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means for us.
Well, I will do my tiny sales pitch at the start of this, which is when Maureen says the full faculty information system, she has faculty search, she has lifecycle management, she has faculty activity reporting, and review, promotion, and tenure, and IDS, and faculty web profiles.
Yes.
So she has it all. But Maureen is not actually here to tell you all about all the different product things about these modules. She is here to tell you about how at Rosalind Franklin they used the experience of getting the full FIS to kind of blow up faculty affairs and start from scratch in a new and exciting way. So, Maureen, what was that process like for you?
Well, the process actually began with the realization that our faculty shared governance was almost moribund. I don't know what else to call it. It was there. People were very, very engaged with being very, very upset about very, very minor things. And the entire larger picture of faculty governance was kind of lost in that sort of intense, personalized experience of being a faculty member. But the desire to do more was also equally being expressed. I want to do more. I want to know how to do things differently. How can this system sort of move us forward to be sort of the best and most engaged faculty that a person that I can be? And of course, that takes a lot of energy, and faculty don't have all that energy after everything else that they're doing. So then it fell to me to sort of think this through. And what I realized that we needed was better systems for supporting faculty and being able to not do 2/3 of the work that they were doing around even just getting appointed. And so when the opportunity came to potentially adopt an entire faculty information system, I thought, okay, this is it, because we'll have to have conversations about every aspect of what we're doing in order to implement this. So I said, let's buy it all. Web profiles wasn't an option at the time, but everything else was on the table. And so I said, let's buy it all, and we'll just work through this through the implementation.
Well, we have limited time, and you have many stories,
yes.
But I would love if you could tell us all about how you had assumptions about faculty activities. How do you address those assumptions?
So I had a lot of assumptions about faculty activities. Some of them were grounded, obviously, in my own experience as a faculty member. Most of my assumptions were that these were actually being documented somewhere, that they were being part of a systematic performance review. Our bylaws certainly said they were going to be. And what I found out is that all of the activity that faculty were engaged in, clearly they were doing it, was all being stored in paper files, in separate offices, sometimes in a dean's office, sometimes elsewhere. There was no, the only collected place that I had was these appointment files for faculty, of which we still have 4 big, huge file cabinets because we're keeping those. We don't want to digitize them. And nobody knew what anybody else was really doing, and it was almost impossible to get it on the website. So those were things. And then I thought that faculty might actually be talking to each other, and they weren't, even in situations where they could tell stories.
Mm-hmm. And with the idea of faculty success, what does that mean at your institution, and how are you trying to support that in your department?
Okay, so the idea of what constitutes faculty success actually became clearer because we took the opportunity during COVID to do this sort of like re-envisioning the future of the university. And in that re-envisioning exercise, the faculty were active participants, and what they started to talk about was what their success was being able to teach well, to make sure that students progressed the way that they needed to progress, to ensure that they understood how to sort of like implement this flipped curriculum in this one college, to be able to write really good grants, to be able to engage in a shared governance system in which their voices were heard, and that they were feeling like they were working in collaboration across the institution versus constantly trying to find ways to have a conversation. And so we heard all of that, and we got another group of faculty together and say, okay, so if we had to design something from scratch, what would it look like to build an entire faculty development system, my role, to go ahead and support that. And so out of that came something called the Nexus for Faculty Success. The Nexus for Faculty Success now has a director. We have shared governance development. We have leading in place. We have an entire series of programs that are focused on leadership development that doesn't entail, and then you become an administrator. It becomes, and then you go into this role out of your early career into your mid-career. And all of it is tailored to the development of the person as a faculty member. And that evolved first out of that need for faculty success, and the definition became well-rounded scholarship and research, being able to choose a focus and really focus on that and still be able to advance in every way as a faculty member, and that the end result would be our students would be good and our community would be served.
So how are you putting that drive towards success into practice with these new tools that you have?
Well, the new tools required us to think about all of our faculty bylaws. So were they, in fact, because we'd already had the conversation about success, could I actually define all of our ranks? Did they make sense? Did we think the ranks made sense? How many people were actually going to be going through a tenure track life cycle? We still have these discussions. We had it today. How much of our system is really going to be supporting affiliate faculty who are, excuse me, sorry about that. Actually, could I have some water?
Oh yeah, can one of our mods, yeah, thank you.
I don't know why.
That's
Dry
okay.
throat.
I will buy you some time by clicking to one of the slides that you made.
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Because I jumped the gun and started asking you about faculty
That's
success
fine.
without your slide. So everyone,
you.
please take a moment to read
Thank
the
you.
fabulous slide that Maureen made while she takes a drink.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Well, and looking at all the questions, I think I actually did hit faculty success. Yes, there's more than one model of faculty success.
Mm-hmm.
Does the faculty information system support faculty decision making? The answer is yes, because the faculty information system helps faculty to understand themselves better, to understand what decisions are actually in their purview, how those decisions that they can make actually translate into the teaching, the research, the scholarship, the service that they choose, and how that ultimately gets aligned to mission in ways that are not mysterious and happening only in their head, but that they actually can document and think about as they are participating in sharing that information with themselves and others. I think really the surprise thing was for me, because I didn't expect that there would be this great, huge, growing interest in shared governance, and it turned out to be the one thing that everybody really wanted to know and understand better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because we had talked about, building off what you were saying about faculty being able to tell their story. Maureen and I had a few different prep calls about this topic, and we ended up talking about the power of narrative.
Yes.
And how it's so important to be able to tell your story. So have you seen some concrete examples of faculty feeling more empowered to explain their work and how they operate?
Yes. So I can point to one particular faculty member. I'll just use this.
Anonymize away.
Yes. And so actually, as part of the process of helping faculty to understand themselves better, narrative was actually one of the experiences that we help them to sort of dive into. How would they tell their story? What would that look like? We actually did this massive diagram of this joint journey that we were doing. Beautiful art, and I'll show it to you guys if you want to see it. But it started people thinking more about their own stories. As a result of that, one person, very actually productive person, but very timid about talking about themselves, volunteered to go ahead and say, I'm going to go ahead and go up for tenure, and I'm going to do it early. And in his case, he hadn't really shared much of anything with anybody. He didn't have a whole lot of strong direct supervision. He's a researcher. And so he began to sit down and figure out, okay, this is who I am. This is the part that I want to bring forward. This is how I'm going to structure my materials. This is how I'm going to put them into this brand new process where I can just put all of this in my dossier, use the dossier, and I'm looking over at Laura to support this. And once that information was in there, we were able to go ahead and actually train the tenure committee on how to use this person's dossier. It was unusual. And so typically it could take half a year to actually get a tenure decision at our institution. And what ended up happening is by using this as a means to train the faculty, they actually, who were on the tenure committee, they actually had to sort of engage with that story. They understood that even though they weren't used to hearing the story from this particular school and department, and I really am anonymizing here, the story was one that they recognized as one that was excellent. And it didn't just boil down to how many peer-reviewed papers that they had. And that was possible with Interfolio in a way that it wouldn't have been possible with the paper. And it was possible for the committee to engage with materials in a different way rather than having like a PDF that was this thick and trying to read through it. And so at the end of the day, the tenure decision was really easy, and he was awarded the tenure and promotion. And it took probably from the time that the committee got it to the time that the decision was made about a month. And then it took 2 months for the board to actually see it, which is also typical.
So what was it like to realize that you had these challenges you want to solve, and then start, I know you have many nice things to say about the team that you worked with to implement, but what was that process like where you said, okay, we have these bylaws, we have this shared governance that we want to make into practice. How do you go from the abstract to making it concrete?
Well, what we found out was that just to be blunt, is that our practices were, as codified in our bylaws, represented probably higher education as it had existed in the 1967 with kind of tweaks, because that was the last full revision of the bylaws. Everything else was tweaks. And so we realized that that way of thinking about things wasn't going to really effectively, it was really good for maybe the time that it was developed for, but it didn't allow people to actually engage. It supported siloing. It created the hierarchies of this kind of research is more important than this kind of research, and I can't talk to you about this because your research and my research are so different. And so, which was weird to me. Trying to work with the team to help them to understand what we were trying to put into not only RPT, but also, what were our categories in FAR, and trying to do that implementation. We basically ended up shifting all of that back to Faculty Senate and saying we need a bylaws revision. We can't move forward without this. 3 years later, we had revised bylaws. We had a faculty, and the bylaws committee itself viewed that experience as a primary professional development experience, and there was a lot of back and forth between this is happening in Interfolio, this is what we need, this is what we don't have, or this is what we want to consider tweaking, and do we really need this? Mostly around all of the different things that created not necessarily helpful differentiations between faculty, and that is what the committee loved. And what it ended up doing was it caused us to really simplify our faculty structure. It caused us to address one of the pain points between tenured and non-tenured faculty. It allowed us to reestablish the bylaws and completely restructure the Senate through that process. And so now we have a Senate that functions quite differently, recognizes that they actually adopted, even in 1967, Robert's rules, and they use them. And we've had open dialogues about virtually a tenure that have never happened before. And then that actually helped us to put in a reasonable tenuring process and have a workflow in Interfolio that we could support, because otherwise we were going to have to give up on Interfolio, and that wasn't an option.
So you took decades of how you were doing things
And restructured.
and changed it all and digitized it all. That's a lot of change. How are faculty feeling about this?
Mostly, I would say, and I do want to call out my friend and partner, Laura Nelson, who is our systems administrator. Laura is one of the most helpful, engaging people that you will ever care to meet, and she made it her job to really know and understand the system and really work with the team. And then what she also did is we did the slow roll. We said, okay, we are going to engage faculty with this at a point of need. I need something, therefore I am willing to put in this effort, and we're going to have really concierge support. And then when that happened, then we were able to sort of roll out the experience to more and more faculty. So it's really started with promotion before it started with appointment. It went into tenure, then it went into we actually are skipping around a little bit. We had some internal, as I pointed out, challenges with being able to fit things into FAR and being able to fully implement that the way that we wanted to. And I have to, again, compliment everybody for helping us work through that. And then to be able to really engage faculty as fun. The entire group of people that were on the Bylaws Review Committee have become our beta testers. And they're powerful voices amongst the faculty to talk about really good experiences that they have had with Interfolio. We still had the process of being able to go to teams of, committees. And the committee training structure was we did it one school at a time, and because we were all engaged in this discussion about what does it mean to actually engage as a committee around appointment, promotion, and tenure in meaningful ways for the university, the adoption of the system didn't seem quite as big of a change as it might otherwise have been. And now, at this point, promotion and tenure is just, this is how you do this. Tenure committee is now more focused on what are our processes so that we can go ahead and streamline this workflow further. Faculty expect to be able to put information in the dossier, and they do. People who don't really have to engage with promotion or tenure at this point and aren't that interested in addressing their activities because they're like 3.5 years from retirement, we're not asking them to step into the system at this point in time until we get to web profiles. And that's at the point where we know it will interest them, because web profiles captures their life, captures their impact. And I'm really excited by what I've been seeing here, because this will make the case even more so. So we have some very successful faculty who are basically like gems hidden. Everybody else in the world knows what they do, and our own faculty don't. We have a AAAS fellow, for crying out loud, and a person who at this point in her career is still actively seeking and securing NIH grants, and she works with the Nexus for Faculty Success to teach other people how to do this. And we can capture all of that activity plus all of the impact of her entire life and put that out there for people to see in ways that her CV just doesn't on our website right now. So I'm looking forward to that.
You had, I know we have this, you were talking about the discovery process and figuring out like all of the things that you wanted to change, and this is all well and good. And once you created the differences that you wanted to make in the system, you saw some results, I think, fairly quickly. You said that, you mentioned to me that your renewal workload was cut by 2/3?
By 2/3. I will say that story involves something that's really important. I don't know how familiar anybody in the audience is with the term holding space. Have you heard and used it before?
I think anybody who saw the Wicked Press tour knows about holding space.
There you go. So the idea here is that the discovery process created a space where we could really address some really, again, needed work, and we're still taking